Can Atticus's parenting be criticized, and how? If so.
Atticus's character can be criticized just because it's all a way of how people perceive things, and just like how we were talking about earlier, it's just the way that people perceive things, and he can be criticized negatively and positively. He can be criticized by how he's representing Tom and how he's raising his kids and the way that he is interacting with his kids.
Every parent can be criticized because no one's going to agree with each other on everything. And I think that sometimes people, like say Atticus might be like a little bit too, these people said in the book that he's too like free with his kids. Like he lets them go to town, he lets them go to all these places, and he really doesn't mind and everything.
I'd say that he can be criticized because when Atticus lets Jem and Scout go to the courthouse and watch the Tom Robinson case, people like Ann Alexander didn't agree with that. And, he's criticizing them and letting them know a little too much about what Tom Robinson has done.
So that kind of leads us to another question. Do you think that him doing that is kind of bad for Jem and Scout? Like, with the things that they're learning, do you think it's bad?
I think that, I don't think it's necessarily bad, but no one's going to agree. A lot of people don't agree with that, I don't think, because, like, you have to learn these things at some point. Like, it's a reality, rape is a reality, and court is a reality, and you're going to have to learn about it sometime, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what Savannah said. That's actually really true, and, well, you have to, grow up at some point, mature, and, learn the hard truth about stuff.
Okay, I agree with what y'all said, and mainly because he's a lawyer, so they grow up with the law, and it'd be kind of stupid if they didn't know what their father did. So it's kind of inevitable that they'd find out. Okay, I'll go to anybody else over here before I go.
I also agree. The thing that people in Macomb may not agree with is how young Scout actually is, and maybe her learning. They may think that her learning this a little early could influence how she sees the world.
Okay, I'm gonna change the question. For number 7 on the sheet, it says, analyze the meaning of the following quote. The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience. What did y'all think that meant?
Okay. I didn't even really quote that much.
No, it's number 7 on the sheet. Can we reread it?
Yeah.
It says, the one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience. Analyze the quote.
Well, a lot of times, like, if somebody, like, if people, when she said majority, that's usually like, for example, everybody gets married, nobody, people who are single are weird, or so they can't achieve that. And so they think that people that aren't with the majority are not right.
I think the code is saying that, majority rule, affects a lot of things, like, in court and everything, but no one's, actions, when you do stuff, it's only what you're thinking, it's not what everyone else is thinking for you.
I put that everyone just goes with what everyone says, but in reality, they're thinking differently. They just don't want to be proven different, or think they're different.
So, in that quote, one word that really stands out is majority. And I don't know why, but whenever I see majority, I kind of think of democracy. And usually, democracy is just like to vote and, have things settled. But really, for Atticus, your democracy or majority really can't, I don't think he would let that decide on how or what he teaches his children.
agree with you on that. I put a democratic force can indeed determine how the community will act, but not what a person actually thinks. And an example of that might be the jury can find Tom guilty, but it can't force everyone to believe that he's guilty.
Okay, different question. Number 3 on the sheet, it says, what has changed about the children and what have they gained or lost since the novel began?
Okay, so I put, if you want, you can turn to page 1 of chapter 15. It's in my book, page 174, so I don't know if it's in yours, but 15. Okay. But that was just like a little reference. I put that they've both like gained knowledge in like the law, and then I think based on everything that they've been finding out about how people act, they've not only heard about their father and like started thinking about what he thinks, they started coming up with their own opinions about life. Because like Jim's getting older, so like he knows his opinions, and they all have their own opinion. So that's what I think, that they've changed and gained more knowledge about everything else. This is to Elijah. You can pass it on.
Yeah, I would agree, like, since, like, the case began, they have, like, gained major knowledge on about, like, what the case is about and about what their father does.
I think they've gained confidence as well on pages, it's in this book, 153 and 174. It's where Scout is standing up to Mrs. Dubos when she's talking about how she needs to grow up, she needs to act more ladylike. That was for you, Wendy.
I kind of feel like they both like gained maturity, just because, just like you said, Scout, when she was standing up to that one kid, she had the maturity and she had enough knowledge not to fight him because it wasn't the right thing to do. And I kind of feel like they both like gained knowledge that there's specific things that you can do to solve a situation, and there's things that you shouldn't do to solve a situation.
I agree with Wendy, how they both gained maturity. And I think they've also, gained a little respect for what Atticus does, since he's doing something that most of the people in Macomb don't agree with, which is defending Tom Robinson's case. Now, as to whether Atticus should really do it really doesn't matter, because I think, no matter what he does, it's still helping his 2 children gain maturity and respect for what he does.
Okay, number 4, To Kill a Mockingbird has been challenged repeatedly by both the political left and right, who have sought to remove it from libraries for its portrayal of conflict between children and adults. Which elements of the book, if any, do you think touch on controversial issues in our contemporary culture?
I think all the elements are like touchy. Like, you don't want to learn about them too early because like you don't want to be going around school when you're younger talking about all this stuff. But you can't shelter your kids forever. Like, one day they're going to grow up. And I said earlier that all this stuff is a reality and you just have to kind of live with it. And you don't have to agree with it, but you have to live with it.
I agree because, it's true. You have to agree with it. And I think that all the elements were, like, included. Like, these, like, they shouldn't, like, be bothered with nowadays since we see, like, more of it.
Can you clarify what type of topics?
Like racism, like, we still had, like, racism was, like, a big deal back then, and it still is today. But now people mostly use it for, like, jokes and things like that, and they don't take it as seriously.
Does anyone disagree?
Kat?
Well, I actually didn't disagree with that, but I had to think before. Something that it always, like, this book always reminded me of, something I heard elsewhere, Because you can't make your kids stop being a kid too fast, but you also can't make them stop being a kid too late. So you have to find that, like that perfect point.
Who is this to?
I mean, I do agree that you can't make them stop being a kid at an early age, and you can't make them stop being like a kid later on. But then also you have to understand that if you treat them like they're kids forever, and you shelter them, then when the situation actually comes up, it's gonna hit them like a truck.
Yeah.
Because it's just gonna, the reality of it's gonna hit them hard, and they're not gonna understand what to do.
So I agree with that about how you have to raise them and then like know when to tell them like the right point. And what I was thinking is about one of the most things that I think is still around is like religion, because then religion started to play more role, like, oh, why do you do this? And then they kind of just like, oh, well, it's because of my religion. And that's what most kids are raised up on. Well, some kids are raised up on their religion, and that's how they base all their beliefs on. And I think that's really prominent today on how people look at other people and like some of the conflicts that we see around the world.
Okay, and then changing the question, but like, when you get older, when you have kids, would you shelter your kids or would you teach them at a young age? Because I know some parents, like, dating, a lot of like dads, they teach their daughter, oh, find a king who's gonna protect you, you know? And it's kind of like, do you want to protect your kid and shelter them, or are you gonna protect them but at the same time acknowledge them?
I agree with what Kat said earlier about you can't make them be a kid, like you can't make them stop being a kid too late, but like you have to shelter them to a degree, because you can't just like throw them out in the world and be like, well, here's all this stuff. I mean, it is gonna hit them like a truck and everything, but I think especially some of the stuff on this list, like it says religion and presentation of black people, like you have to teach them that, but you have to be kind of subtle about it. So you need to shelter them to a degree, but you can't just like hover over them all the time.
So would you shelter them? Like, for your own kids, would you shelter them?
I mean, I wouldn't like go everywhere they're going. Like they need to have their own experiences, but I feel like to you know what I'm saying though?
So you would shelter them to an extent.
To an extent, so where that if something is gonna come up, it's gonna like hit them in the face. That it, you know what I mean though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, number 6, discuss the differences between the social injustices of the American South during the Depression versus social injustices today. How have we progressed as a nation in our beliefs about race, justice, and truth? Or have we still a long way to go? Okay, I'll say what I said. I said that we have come a long way because like they're no longer separated, and like now like in the book it's like telling that like how Tom, he was pretty much guilty throughout the whole thing, but now you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So
Like my explanation, I guess, would be like the words that like were said in the book, like today, like those would be like super frowned upon. So that was my like explanation for it.
I think that it's changed, but it hasn't really gotten overly better, I guess. Like it has like people still are racist and such, but people think it's funny now, and that's sort of a problem. Like before it was really serious and like a law, and now people think it's funny and it's wrong.
Back then, discrimination was more based on like what race you were, not like you as a person. But now it's more like based on like what you believe in. Like the Paris attacks, it was just based on what those people believed in, not necessarily what color their skin was.
I think we have come a long way, but like Michael said, we still have a long way to go, like religion-based, because we don't all agree. Like, yes, we believe in different things, but we still have to kind of deal with the fact that people like do different things because of the different religions. Skylar.
Yeah, I agree with what Sydney and Michael said. Like, back then, you still have instances of it today, but back then it was more on race because someone thought that they were better than everyone else. But now it's religion, which you have the same thing where one group might think that they're better than everyone else, but really we're all equal, even though we believe in different things. Like, everyone on this earth is equal, but not everyone thinks that. If you really think about it today, back then it used to just be like black people who got the racism, and now like it's not even just them. Like now it's more pointed towards like Asians and Mexicans, and it's yes, we've come a long way, but it's expanded more. Like the general topic of racism is not just them. It's like a whole bigger variety of them, and it's based off of more elements.
Do you all think that we'll ever achieve this, per se, perfect society where no one's actually judged or anything like that?
Okay. I don't think there's always going to be like that small amount of people that discriminate against other like genders, races, beliefs. So there's always going to be like haters against everything. I guess. It's never going to exist.
Okay. Well, see, the thing is, it's not, people in society will hate, like, a general thing like that. Like, people will be racist, people will be sexist, people will be prejudiced against religions, because there's not a word for that. But let's think of something simpler. Like, if we were to eliminate all hate, that would mean we all have to, like, all have to like the same clothes, we all have to like the same music. Everybody here hates a certain genre of music, but people don't see that as wrong, because it's not affecting anybody. So there will never be no hate, but I think we can reduce hate between people.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna relate this to like driving and something my parents told me. They said that part of driving on the road in public is you have to trust that other people also know how to drive on the road, but not a lot of people do, but you're always gonna have someone who can't drive, and so I feel like that's kind of relatable because you have to trust that other people aren't gonna judge you, and you just can't judge them either.
I agree with what Savannah said. No matter how big or small of a society there actually is, there's always going to be that one person who's always going to be the judgmental type. You know, there's always going to judge what one person's religion or race is and how they live their life.
But then, if you think about it, it's not just going to be that one person or one group, because everyone has an opinion that they're going to voice or they're going to keep to themselves. And most likely they're not going to keep it to themselves because it's their opinion, and you can't really like hate them for their opinion because it's their opinion. It's just kind of like how I would say I hate the color pink. Someone else could love that color pink, and they can't say that. They can't say anything about that I hate the color pink. The color pink because it's my opinion.
Okay, number 11. What is To Kill a Mockingbird ultimately teaching about injustice and how to overcome it? How do we achieve true justice?
Okay, well, what I put is that it teaches truth, because what I think is Atticus in the book, he knows the truth, and he's going to do whatever he can to like let the truth out, and I think that's like what I kind of thought it's teaching about, how that truth is what's going to, you know, persevere. That's what I put.
I feel like it mostly shows you how to like face the facts, like how to like take the truth in, and like once you take the truth in, that you'll be able to like roll with it more. Like how we've understood how racism back then was, but now we've agreed to like, you know, have different types of races with us. As you can see now, like there's a lot more people here with us, not just going to different schools and other things like that.
I feel like it teaches us that everything that's mentioned in this book is a reality, and to overcome it, we just have to teach future generations that it's not good. Because if they see that, if they were to like read this book and they see that this happened in this book, then they would think it would be okay. I feel like you just have to teach them that not everything that they see is okay.
I think it's an excellent point. The answer to most of our problems is the future generations and teaching our children not to do the things that we do that are bad.
So, since you're saying that our future generation is our future, then do you think that our future generation now is corrupt? Like, do you think that some things that we're being taught are kind of just useless?
Well, I think what he's trying to say is like anything can be improved upon, like what our parents taught us and what we've learned and we teach that to our kids, something that our parents didn't teach us or something like that.
So I'm going to go off of what Elijah says before Wendy speaks. I want you guys to focus on that second part of the question. So if it is constantly about the next generation, how or can we ever achieve true justice?
What I was going to say to Elijah was that, I mean, that's kind of like how, okay, the sex talk. That's kind of like what it is. Because if you think about it, kids who are younger than us have already had sex. And it's kind of like they haven't been taught not to do that until marriage, but we have. And that's kind of like some things are going to be improved, but then also some things are going to be like taken down. And I do kind of think that it can be improved, but then there's also going to be some things that we focus so much on that we forget to enforce to others.
Okay, so going off kind of like what everyone said about how you asked if our society's corrupt, is that what you asked? Like this generation? Oh wait,
So how do we achieve true justice?
well, I think that's like, the way I see it is that this book has a lot of the truth that we need to realize if we want to achieve that. And I think that kind of like, we just need to take it seriously, and how you asked that if our generation is already corrupt. And I kind of feel like that our generation comes into school and they think, oh, we just have to read another book, or we just have to read it and get through school. And they don't take it seriously and think, okay, this is truth, and that we need to realize this if we don't want all this to happen again, because we have to know our history and know what happened so we don't relive the past. And I think that is what we need to teach the future generation, that you're not just reading a book, that you're reading the history so you don't repeat it.
On the page of chapter 9, my book is page 85, it talks about like how when the boy is making fun of Scout because his dad or her dad is defending a black person. I think that like I think it's teaching that it's okay to be different. Like it's okay to stand out. You don't have to do what everybody else does. Like Atticus is standing out by defending him. So I think that to achieve true justice, you stand up for what you believe in, what you think is right, even if you're standing alone.
Okay, I'm going to go off of what Kelsey said and back to reference number 6. When we read our New York Times upfront articles, we read about Selma and then we read about the terrorist attacks this year. And just to compare, the bottom images are from Selma. So this is Martin Luther King and a group marching for justice. And then this is a kind of eagle eye view of people that marched with them. Flash forward 50 years, and this was Paris attacks. These are group leaders around the world marching for a different type of justice, and an eagle eye view of people that showed up. So looking at that, how similar does that look? Reese?
Well, the way I see it is, in this picture, it's mainly African Americans fighting for their rights, and also some like white people who believe that what's happening is wrong. And that's why I don't think there's too many people, because a lot of people either don't want to step out and say I don't agree with it, or they just don't. But here we see that it doesn't matter what race they are or anything like that, that people know what they believe and they know it's right and they're going to stand up for it.
sorry.
I kind of agree with what Reese said. It's not just about the type of people that are going to stand up for something. It's just what they really believe in and what's right.
But then, if you think about it, the Selma, it's kind of like, it was before.
Okay, is that our bell?
Yes.
Okay, guys. We will turn in our reflections and answers since we ran out of time.